All right. Well, we are here right now at the Hefter fundraising dinner, and we are with FRANZ Vollenweider, all the way from Switzerland. We're lucky enough to join us, the lead author on the paper you guys will be reading. Franz, you want to just say a few words about yourself?
Hello, my name is FRANZ Vollenweider from the University of Zurich. I welcome you to this short lecture I got asked for. We do a lot of studies in psychedelics for different reasons, for understanding the brain and consciousness. We are interested in the neural basis of consciousness, experience of the self, how does the brain create a self. We have not a real answer, but we are on the way to address certain questions about different aspects of the self. On the other hand, we are interested to find out whether these kind of drugs are useful in therapy, like for instance refractory depression. So that's a reason we have this gathering today, to attract people for giving money to a well-established science.
Now, Franz, what would you say, the paper they're going to be reading is your Nature Review paper on plasticity, regarding, at the synaptic level. What would you say, under a psychedelic-induced experience, how is the brain changing in some type of way or not changing?
There is a short effect, an acute effect of psychedelics on the processing, for instance, of emotion, the so-called top-down effect, for instance, on the amygdala. We saw that this leads to a kind of change of an emotional bias within depression, that patients always think more in negative circles, and psychedelic can cut this circle down insofar that the frontal cortex starts to inhibit the amygdala and emotional processing. So it's one possible benefit that this drug could have in depressed patients. The other thing is an acute or long-term change in brain plasticity insofar that the neurons start to sprout and to make new connections. This has been seen on a molecular level with psilocybin, for instance, in the hippocampus. It has been shown twice now that psilocybin can facilitate extinction of fear memory. That's something very interesting in regard to PTSD patients, post-traumatic stress disorder patients. So it's very new that we have insight at the molecular level that there's something going on that's very positive. But we have to have more evidence, more experiments to find out in what direction this could go and work in the future.
Now, Franz, do you think that this plasticity that psychedelics induce in the brain could account for people's behavior or people's personality changing in some type of way after an experience?
That could be. What we don't know is whether it has always two sides. Can it foster a good development, or could it also be the other way around, that somebody has a very bad trip and then got bad imprints and lots of bad memories of the trip? So that's the question. It's a question of dose. It's a question of how is the experience embedded in certain setting questions and all that stuff. We don't know a lot from a neurobiological point of view, but we know a lot from a psychological point of view, that the setting is important, the drug, the pre-experience, and so on. A lot of so-called predictors we have to study, which may have an impact of the course of these possible beneficial effects of psychedelics.
And just one last question to kind of finish up. What else would you say, besides the kind of plasticity aspect that psychedelics may induce, what else is really interesting right now in psychedelic neuroscience?
What we are most interested in at the moment is the condition. How could the brain bring consciousness into kind of being? For instance, if you look at the resting state of the brain, and what's the ground that you start to think about something, what's the content of your consciousness, how is this related, kind of resting state, and its relation to a specific content of consciousness. And at that point, psychedelics really interfere in a process that allow us to study this relationship between, let's say, the poor consciousness, the empty canvas, and then is something going on this canvas. That's the content of consciousness. And these are questions we are really interested in, and also what networks lead to a kind of self-experience. So a lot of questions we have no real cue we like to understand with these kind of drugs.
And just to finish up, what's your favorite part about being a psychedelic researcher?
It's a certain of creative development. We learned a lot with the drugs on a molecular level, on a system level, and it goes on and goes on. Every experiment leads to the next question. That's very dynamic thing, and it needs a lot of complementary research. We have pharmacologists, we have psychologists in the group, we have physicists for modeling all this process on a mathematical level. So this is really exciting and thrilling. Common enterprise of different young people and experienced scientists. It's really a kind of enterprise.
Hey, Franz, thank you so much.
Okay.